Okay, it seems that numbers have just about settled. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here today for our evening community meeting. Before we get started, I will go ahead and go over our accessibility options. I will read the instructions in English, and I will then allow one of our interpreters to read the instructions in Spanish. Simultaneous interpretation is being provided. English speakers may need to select English as their language. Everyone will need to make a choice to listen to the presentation in either English or Spanish. To use the Zoom interpretation features, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are, and then click the interpretation icon. Select English or Spanish. And if you're using the Zoom mobile app or a tablet, please click on the ellipses that say More, then Interpretation, and then you can choose your language. To only hear the interpreted language, please click Mute Original Audio. Please note American Sign Language is also available today, and we will also offer captions for this meeting. To enable or disable captions, please click the More button and choose Captions. I will give everybody a few seconds to make this selection and allow the Spanish interpreter to translate.
Buenas tardes, gracias por acompañarnos. Estaremos dando interpretación al español de forma simultánea. Le vamos a dar las instrucciones para que pueda acceder a su canal. Pedimos que elija español en la parte inferior de su pantalla con el símbolo de un globo terráqueo. En caso que no vea el globo terráqueo, puede buscar los 3 puntos dentro de un círculo donde dice More o más si sus configuraciones están en español. Ahí puede ver interpretación, elija español y estará incorporándose al canal. Si nos acompaña a través de un teléfono inteligente o a través de una tableta, de la misma manera puede ir a los 3 puntos, elegir su lenguaje, español, pero aquí tiene que apretar el botón azul que dice Done o finalizado para poder activar la acción. Gracias.
Okay, we can move on to the next slide, please. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jessica Monterosa, and I am an air pollution specialist. My work here at CARB is focused in heavy-duty off-road incentive programs. I also coordinate equity and community engagement efforts with the Mobile Source Control Division Equity Work Group. I will be facilitating the evening community meeting tonight in an effort to help with the coordination of the Clean Transportation Incentives Funding Plan, also known as the Funding Plan, share program updates, and coordinate presentations on topics of public interest. I would like to take a minute to acknowledge our team of folks that help us with the facilitation of these monthly meetings. It takes a huge effort to coordinate these meetings, so thank you to all the staff that help with this effort. Before we begin, there are a few housekeeping items that we need to address. This meeting is being recorded and will be available in our meetings and workshops webpage in about 2 weeks, including the agenda, slides, and attendee list. Staff would drop a link in the chat where this information can be found. Next slide, please. These meetings are about sharing information. Our meeting agreements are here to alleviate challenges and are as follows. Be respectful. Let's be kind and create a comfortable space for everyone to share their thoughts and experiences. Take space and/or make space. If you have a lot to say, great. We encourage you to ask questions, but please be mindful and leave room for others to participate as well. Listen to understand. Listen without jumping or jumping to conclusions. Finally, consider equity. We all aim to develop solutions with fairness and equality in mind. People from all over California are here to work together on the clean transportation incentives. These diverse perspectives can help us overcome barriers. With this agreement in mind, please let us continue. Next slide, please. So what is the purpose of an evening community meeting? Our annual funding plan development process involves daytime public workshops and work group meetings on various incentive projects. However, we understand that community members face unique challenges in attending these meetings compared to representatives from industry, government, and non-governmental organizations. So CARB continues to host monthly evening community meetings to make it easier for community members and people not associated with an organization or company to engage with us. If you represent an organization or company that can attend daytime meetings, we welcome you to listen to evening meetings to hear individual and community concerns. However, we ask you to please save your comments and questions and share them at a daytime meeting so that evening community meetings can be a space for individuals and community members. Our goals for these meetings are to provide space for community voices and priorities, brainstorm solutions for clean transportation needs, highlight key funding plan information, and foster ongoing communication between staff and the community. Next slide, please. For tonight's presentation, we have 3 items on the agenda. Sorry, 2 items on the agenda. First up, today we have Sean Ransom and Robert Chester on the implementation and solicitation for the California e-bike incentive program project. This will be followed by a presentation from Stephanie Parent on the Clean Transportation Incentives Funding Plan development process. We will have a question and answer session after each subtopic. I will now hand it over to my colleague Robert to address any questions or comments you may have so far.
Good evening. Thank you, Jessica. My name is Robert Chester, and I'm staff here at CARB. So if you would like to ask a question or make a comment, please use the raise hand function on Zoom, or you may press #2 if calling in by phone. Please state your name and affiliation if you have one before asking a question or making a comment. And if you would prefer, you may also email us your comments and questions at cleantransportationincentives@arb.ca.gov. We do not have any raised hands or emails at this time, which makes sense because we're at the beginning of the meeting, so I think we can move on.
Okay, up next we have Sean with the implementation and solicitation for the California e-bike incentive project. We'll give Sean unmuting permissions. Are you able to unmute yourself? Yes.
There we go. All right, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. My name's Sean Ransom, and I'm the lead for the California e-bike incentive project. And tonight we're just going to do a quick overview and talk about the project components and the latest news. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the California e-bike incentive project aims to provide electric bike or e-bike incentives to low-income Californians to help purchase electric bicycles that cannot afford cars, along with reducing greenhouse gas emissions and vehicle miles traveled. For our current grant, we have $13 million, and we have a new solicitation going out for an additional $18 million. That may go up to $21 million. And for eligible e-bikes, we allow class 1, class 2, class 3 e-bikes. Applicants can redeem their vouchers at brick and mortar stores or also online purchases. And we require those retailers to be California based. So that's either a corporate office in California, a storefront presence, products sold in California, or California based manufacturing. And for more information, I have the website link at the bottom of the slide here, which you're welcome to go and check out. Okay, next slide. And so for the applicant eligibility, applicants must be 18 years or older, and all applicants must have a household income at or below 300% of the federal poverty level. And we have another tier of applicants, which are applicants who have a household income at or below 225% of the federal poverty level, or they can reside in a low income community, or they can reside in a disadvantaged community. And here on the slide, we have some examples of what those income levels look like. For example, a household of one would need to make at $45,180 or below. And another note about the priority applicants is they can receive an additional $250 for a max incentive of $2,000. Okay, next slide. All right, and here's that incentive structure. So for applicants with a base income of 300% of the federal poverty level or below, they can receive up to $1,750. And for the priority applicants, they can receive up to $2,000. And I would also note that these incentives also cover accessories such as helmets, locks, baskets, racks, lights, mirrors, sales tax, assembly, and delivery. So we're really trying to include everything that would help an applicant make this suit their needs as best as we can. Okay, next slide. So here's a little bit more on the e-bike eligibility. All e-bikes must be class 1, 2, or 3, have integrated lights, operable pedals, a motor with less than 750 watts. And one of our most recent updates is to require underwriter laboratories, also known as UL requirements, or the European standard, also known as EN certifications. So all of our e-bikes have gone through rigorous safety and electronic testing. And we also allow adaptive e-bike modifications. So for those applicants with disabilities or just needing additional functionality out of their e-bikes. Next slide. All right, and our current project status. So we're wrapping up window 1. So far, we've redeemed approximately 1.8 million, which is approximately 900 incentives, 900, yeah. And for window 2, we are actually, we just had a press release go out, so we have some big news to share here today, which is we will be launching our program on April 29th at 5 p.m. And I can drop a little bit more information for everyone in the chat. But I will say, if you visit our website, we have that all updated for everyone to see on our landing page with all the information that you would need to apply or find out more about eligibility. It's all available there. And for anyone who hasn't already signed up for our mailing list, I would also encourage everyone to sign up for that for our latest updates. Okay, thank you, everyone.
All right, folks. So time for comments and questions. Again, instructions. If you're using Zoom, can somebody mute themselves? Thank you. Okay, let's try this again. If you would like to ask a question or make a comment, please use the raise hand function on Zoom. Or if you're calling in by phone, press #2 to ask a question or make a comment. Please state your name and affiliation if you have one before asking a question or making a comment. And then finally, if you would prefer, you may send your comments and or questions to cleantransportation.incentives@arb.ca.gov. Okay, no emails at this time. There are currently no hands. There we are. Okay. Rob Youngren, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you. Rob
You're welcome.
Youngren with Sacramento Area Bike Advocates. Just curious, with the meeting in March, we were told we would get a 30-day notice before the next application window would open. Once again, that was about 2 weeks, and the amount of vouchers was reduced from 1,500 to 1,000. Just trying to figure out what the reasoning was that for the change between these two meetings.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, and so let me tackle the last question first. We do, as we proposed in our March 5th public work group, we are implementing our CBO set aside. So we do have an additional 500 incentives that will go out through our CBO network through California. So we have 22 CBOs across California, and that number is actually increasing. So I think we'll have about 25. So that, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with that process, happy to talk more offline, but essentially we're allowing those CBOs to distribute e-bike incentives through their program directly to their local communities. And as for the press release, we did just run into a little bit of kind of bureaucracy, I would say, layers of approvals through our state agency. So, yeah, we tried to get that as soon as we could.
Okay, next is Tyler Wunsch. Tyler, go ahead and unmute yourself if you can.
Yeah, hey there. Just a follow on the question that was just asked. Do you know who the local, I live in Sacramento, do you know who the local CBOs for that extra 500 are going to be? Because I definitely want to make sure that some people I know that applied for the last round were really frustrated, just waiting for hours, not really even getting a voucher. So I want to make sure that they not only know that a second round is coming, so that's great to hear, but then also who the CBOs are locally that they can either directly reach out to or follow their social media just to be proactive about this. So if you could list those in the chat, or if you know them now, that'd be great.
Yeah, and I will just say that we have updated our application process. So we won't have a first come, first serve process anymore. We're doing a randomization. And with the randomization, we will let essentially everyone know where they have been randomized to. So there won't be any uncertainty. First serve, everyone saw a waiting time, and that created a lot of uncertainty as to where they were in line. So with this round, we'll have a ticker, or not ticker, but they'll know their spot in line almost immediately once we randomize the entire applicant pool at 6 p.m.
Okay, great.
And as for the Sacramento CBOs, that I think we should probably talk offline about that. There are some concerns about kind of overwhelming the Sacramento CBOs, putting all their information out there, and there's so much demand. We already have 150,000 people on our mailing lists that we know about, not counting everyone else who will soon learn about this program. So to have an extreme amount of people contacting them is definitely a concern for them. So yeah, I think it would be best if we talk offline and go about it that way.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. I see no other hands raised at this time. Let's see. We do have questions from the chat. I'm sorry, from the email. Let's see. What will CARB do differently in the upcoming solicitation for a third-party administrator? CARB already demonstrated that there was a lack of due diligence in the first vetting cycle. How will you handle this process differently this time? What will this vetting process involve? And will you do interviews with checking the references of all applicants? Will you be referencing other much more successful programs at CARB? Okay. Lisa.
Yes, thanks, Robert, for reading through that. So, hi, Lisa McCumber. I am the Chief for the Equitable Mobility Incentives Program. And there's only a little bit that I can speak to with regard to the solicitation process. It is a competitive process, and in the first round of the project, actually with any project, what we do is, we put out a request for applications. Folks provide those along with letters of support. We do evaluate and do kind of background review on organizations and the staff that are proposed, but only so much can be found. We do, however, plan to, as we run this new solicitation, incorporate a few changes to our process that does involve a bit more for the administrators, the proposed administrators, those that are applying, to really demonstrate what it is that they can bring to the table when applying for these types of programs. Our team also, we do pull a broad team of staff together to evaluate the proposals that come in. So we have experts across the board, not just our handful of staff that work on the project, but we do pool expertise across regulatory programs, across other community programs. And so we have a big team that will be assembling to review the applications that come in, as well as just some different types of ways that we can evaluate the information that we're receiving, as well as asking questions of our administrators, which is something that we haven't really done a whole lot of before in the applications. but making sure that we've got the ability to ask follow-up questions and things like that throughout the process. So that's all that I can really share at this time. We will have that solicitation out soon, and we look forward to seeing the applications that come in, and continuing to get the next rounds of funding underway for the program.
Thanks, Lisa. I forgot to identify the person who sent that in. Apologies for that. Samuel Kilpatrick of Redwood Coast Energy Authority in Humboldt County. Also, we had another follow-up comment from the same person, Samuel Kilpatrick, stating that he believes that CBO set-aside is inequitable because the amount of CBOs available to participate vary across the state. For example, in Humboldt County, we have no CBOs who will be eligible to apply. We suggest that these vouchers all be available statewide as they were before, so as to make this program more available on a statewide basis. Thank you for your comment. Okay, any other hands at this time? I do not see any. I think we can move to the next presentation.
Thank you, Robert.
You're
And thank you, and thank you everyone for your comments and questions. These ideas help us improve the funding plan programs. And for our next presentation, we have Stephanie Parent presenting exactly on that, the funding plan reflection survey results.
Jessica.
Oh, sorry, wrong text. Clean Transportation Incentives Funding Plan Development Process. Sorry about that.
No worries. So good evening, everyone. As Jessica said, I'm Stephanie Parent. I lead the development of CARB's the annual Clean Transportation Incentives Funding Plan, and we also call that the funding plan. So today I'll provide some background information on the funding plan development process and talk about CARB staff's proposed changes to it for this year. We'll gather your thoughts on the proposed changes through a few poll questions, followed by discussion. So with that, let's begin. Next slide. Thanks. In this section, I'll cover a bit about the purpose of the funding plan, the difference between appropriations and allocations, the state budget and funding timelines and time constraints, and how the funding plan has grown and changed over the past decade. Next slide. The Clean Transportation Incentives Funding Plan is an annual detailed guide for how CARB will allocate or assign the funds that are appropriated or designated to it by the legislature each year through the state budget. Through the plan, CARB staff aims to meet community and business needs, as well as CARB and California state goals to improve air quality and reduce the negative impacts of climate change. Where the appropriations allow for CARB to assign funds to different incentive projects or programs, that's where we collaborate with you on how those funds should be assigned. I'll touch more on this on the next slide. Lastly, the plan is also a way for us to refine and improve upon how the projects work. For example, last year, one policy change was to direct last year's Clean Off-Road Equipment Project limited funds only to small businesses and public agencies because many of them struggle to have the funds needed to be able to purchase this type of equipment. For the Driving Clean Assistance Program, we increased the loan cap amount from $30,000 to $45,000 for financing assistance because we heard from community members and organizations that people needed a higher loan amount to be able to purchase the types of vehicles they need and want. Next slide. Oh, go back one. My apologies. When flexibilities in appropriations are allowed, CARB can decide how to allocate those funds. The amounts shown on this slide are examples from the governor's January proposed budget for fiscal year 2025-26. So note that these are not final numbers and that they may change as the budget is developed and finalized. And that should happen by June 15th. But to use these as an example, a budget bill might specify $48 million specifically for zero-emission drayage trucks. In this case, this would be considered an appropriation for a specific category, and we have no flexibility to move those funds to other incentive projects or categories. Another example is if a budget bill specifies $100 million for sustainable community-based transportation equity projects. We also call these clean mobility projects, and they include clean mobility in schools, clean mobility options, planning and capacity building, and sustainable transportation equity projects. In this case, we would have the flexibility to allocate or divide up the $100 million funds among those projects that make up the clean mobility group. Next slide, please. This slide shows the annual state budget development timeline with key dates. The governor publishes their proposed state budget in early January, followed by a revised budget around mid-May. That's after budget hearings. The legislature must pass a final budget by midnight on June 15th. But you should note that we may receive trailer bills during the summer prior to the end of the legislative year, which is September 15th in odd-numbered years like this year, and August 31st in even-numbered years. Next slide. Slide shows the funding plan development timeline. I'd like to point out June and July as our main time to collaborate and engage with you to develop the plan, as well as the formal 30-day public comment period from about mid-October to about mid-November. And I should note, I say June and July is our main collaboration time. I think that could go into August a bit as well. Next slide, please. This slide shows the time constraints that we face that are sometimes out of our control and shows why we have such a short time frame to develop the proposed funding plan. And as I previously mentioned, we may receive trailer budget bills toward the end of the legislative session, such as for our greenhouse gas reduction fund, which further constrains us. But rather than push our process out further, we stick to our timeline to get the dollars out the door quickly to program administrators, and eventually those go out to the recipients of the incentive funds, so we can spend those funds quickly and get them out to the people and the businesses that need them. Otherwise, we risk the possibility that the legislature could pull back the funds. Next slide, please. Over the past decade, the funding plan has grown and changed a great deal. The funding plan originally had a small amount of funding from one funding source and funded about 4 incentive projects. Now it has a much larger budget oftentimes, and from sometimes three or more funding sources. And it has funded 12 or more incentive projects. And staff resources have grown, though slowly over time. And of course, the length of the funding plan depends on the amount of funding appropriated to CARB through the state budget and how many projects are being funded or have policy changes in any particular fiscal year. Next slide. This slide provides more detail about some of the growth and changes over the past decade. While you can see that resources and demands have increased, the amount of time that we have to develop the funding plan hasn't. In the past, we've also received feedback that the funding plan document was too long, but people still want regular updates throughout the process. We've added public meetings, such as these monthly evening community meetings, and we provide detailed slides and discussions in all our meetings rather than outlines. We've moved information to our web pages, and we're working to update those throughout the year. We're always trying to find ways to improve the funding plan development process for everyone involved. Next slide, please. In this section, I'll go over staff's proposed key changes to the funding plan development process for this year. As I previously mentioned, we're always trying to improve the process, and we welcome your ideas for how to improve it. Next slide. Building upon the previous slides, staff proposes 3 key changes to the development process this year. Note that after the next 3 slides, I'll ask you 3 voluntary poll questions. Your feedback would help us understand what you think about the proposed changes. First, we propose to remove the preparation of the draft funding plan. I realize some of you may not have ever read or reviewed a draft funding plan, and that's perfectly okay. Originally, the draft plan was the one document that we released for public review and feedback before the proposed plan was posted for formal public comment. Now that we hold various public meetings with presentation slides and recordings, as well as other handouts when needed, along with the proposed funding plan for the 30-day public comment period, we believe the draft plan is no longer needed or useful. Without it, you would still have many opportunities to engage with us to develop the plan. Next slide. Next slide, please. Or maybe my system is slow. Oh, there it is. Okay. So our second item is that we propose to add an additional evening community meeting in June. We realize this meeting is crucial to provide community members and the public with timely budget information. It would align with the legislature's state budget approval by June 15th and CARB staff's funding plan kickoff workshop that same month. Realistically, we only have from about June 16th through the end of August to collaborate with you to develop the proposed funding plan. Next slide. Lastly, we hope to offer more one-on-one meetings between CARB staff and individuals and groups earlier in the process, beginning now. If you or your group are interested in scheduling a meeting, please fill out our online form to request a meeting with staff. And staff will drop the link in the chat if they haven't already. Announcing and offering earlier one-on-one meetings would help us ensure that these meetings can be scheduled between June 16th to about mid-July, and it would allow us to engage with you to develop the proposed plan and be able to listen to what your needs, problems, and potential solutions are so we can consider them in relation to the funding plan. We'll also do our best to summarize outcomes from these meetings and report them out to the public or to report them out at our public meetings to help minimize any concerns about closed door conversations. We aim to be as transparent as possible. So now I will launch the first poll question. Give me just a minute here. Okay, so you should be able to see this on your screen. And the question is, what do you think about removing the preparation of the draft funding plan? And the answer choices are, I support removing it. I don't support removing it. I need more information to be able to decide. I'm indifferent about whether or not we keep it or remove it. Or you might want to answer other. And if you answer other, or really any of the answer choices, you might want to share in our discussion Q&A section what your thoughts or questions are. And I'll give everyone a minute or so to consider and respond. Okay, it looks like things have slowed down. We don't have too many people responding, but looks like 6 out of 31 people, so 19% of people that are participating in this meeting have answered poll question number 1. And so I can end the poll and I'll share the results. And so we can see that, one person, which comes out to 17%, supports removing it. Also, one person, or 17%, doesn't support removing it. A few people, 3 people, which makes up 50% of the people that responded, feel that they need more information to be able to decide. So if you have questions or comments that you want to share when we get to the discussion portion, we'd be happy to hear those thoughts and questions. And another person is indifferent about whether or not we keep it or remove it. I'll go ahead and stop sharing this poll. And it looks like even though I said there were, I don't remember now, like about 30 people that could have responded, sometimes we do also have CARB staff and on these meetings as well. So it may not be always appropriate for them to respond. Off the top of my head, I don't know how many people from the public we have, but let's go on to our next question. I believe you should see the poll now. So I'll read the question and responses or choices. What do you think about adding a June evening community meeting to the funding plan development process? And the answer choices here are, I support adding it. I don't support adding it. I'm indifferent whether we add it or not, or other, if that seems more appropriate to you. And again, you might want to consider sharing your thoughts, comments, questions during our discussion if you have more to share about this topic or this question. And again, I'll give it another minute or so for people to be able to respond. Okay, I feel like looks like things have leveled out. So I'm going to go ahead and end this poll and share the results with you. So you should be able to see that out of the people that answered this question, we have about 4 people that support adding an evening community meeting, including the cat buster here, and 1 person that feels like they're indifferent about it. And so again, if there's anything that you want to share, whether you support it or you feel indifferent, or maybe you didn't feel like answering the question, but anything you'd like to share during our discussion time, feel free to raise your hand or email the question, and we'll go through those instructions when we get to it. Right. And so now we have one more question number 3. So you should see that. And the question is, what do you think about CARB staff offering earlier opportunities for one-on-one meetings to discuss your needs, problems, and potential solutions? Your answer choices are, I support this, I don't support this. That's the second option. The third option is I'm indifferent, whether earlier one-on-one meetings are offered or not. And we also have option 4, which is other. So I'll give everyone a minute or so to respond to this question. And it looks like things are slowing down. We'll go ahead and end this poll and share the results. And so for the people that responded to this question, most people are in support of us offering the earlier one-on-one meetings where people or groups can meet with CARB staff. So thank you for responding to the poll questions, and I'll go ahead and stop sharing now. And with that, we can go to the next slide, please. Well, if you can move forward, I think, yes, right there. My apologies.
Okay, folks. Comments and questions again. Use the raise hand function if you're joining through Zoom. And if you are on the phone, you may press #2 to ask a question or make a comment. Please state your name and affiliation if you have one before asking a question or making a comment. You may also email questions to cleantransportationincentives@arb.ca.gov. Let's see. No hands raised at this time. We'll wait a moment here. Are there any emails? Okay, no emails. Okay, well, I guess we have no comments or questions at this time, so we can go ahead and move forward.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you everyone who participated in the poll questions. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Jessica. Yes, I agree with Jessica. Thanks for participating in the poll questions. And just trying to think about, what was responded with the poll questions. It's always hard when it's a smaller group to be able to, say anything definitive, or maybe I'm trying to think of a simpler word. In any case, I think we'll take your feedback through the poll questions, and we also had a work group during the day today where we asked the same poll questions, and so taking all of that information and making decisions on how to move forward. And just to kind of recap what we went over in my presentation today. We heard about the purpose of the funding plan, when we can or can't shift funds that are appropriated to CARB, when we can, decide to allocate or dole those out, divide them up to different incentive projects or programs. And we looked at the development timelines, some of the different time constraints that we have that often are out of our control. And we looked at how the funding plan has grown and changed over the past 10 years. And then we presented our proposed changes for this year. And as you just participated in the 3 poll questions. And so, yeah, like I said earlier, we'll take that information and consider how to move forward. And so my last few slides is to look at the governor's proposed January budget and our upcoming meetings. Thanks for the slide change. So this slide shows the governor's January proposed budget for clean transportation incentives. Again, this is for fiscal year 2025-26. I won't go into detail since these are preliminary numbers and they're being discussed now by the legislative budget subcommittees. But we did want to give you an idea of what's being discussed. And as far as like which projects or programs or categories that might receive funds this year, and the amounts that are being discussed. All of this can change, and we'll see a May revised budget around May 14th. And then things can change again by the time the final budget needs to be passed by midnight on June 15th. And even then, you have to keep in mind that some funding, such as our greenhouse gas reduction funds, may not be decided upon until mid-September this year, due to the possible budget trailer bills that we sometimes see in the summer up until the legislative year ends. Again, that's September 15th this year. If you're interested in following the budget process, you can check out the links to the legislative budget committees. There's Senate Subcommittee 2 and Assembly Subcommittee 4, and there are hearings that are happening throughout the next few months, and those are open to the public. And so if those links haven't already been dropped into the chat, staff will go ahead and do that now. Next slide, please. So our evening community meetings are held. Oh, is this my slide or Jessica's slide? I apologize.
That's your slide. There's a little bit of overlap. Yeah.
Sorry. So the evening community meetings are held every 3rd Tuesday of the month. They're not all listed on this slide. And note that we don't hold one in November because we have the board meeting to present the proposed funding plan. We're planning to hold our kickoff workshop for the funding plan on June 17th and recapping that at the evening community meeting that same day. It might be on the slide. Oh yeah, it is on the slide there. Then, as I mentioned earlier, June, July, and maybe a bit into August, that's our time, really more intensive time to collaborate with all of you to develop the proposed funding plan. And then in August, we'll discuss draft ideas. We'll have a workshop and a recap that month as well. And then staff will write the proposed plan in September, and we post the proposed plan October 10th to open up the formal 30-day public comment period for everyone to review and comment on the plan. And we'll also have an evening community meeting, in October, where we can talk about your questions and comments on the plan that you may have been able to come up with in your review at that point. So then we proposed the plan in November, and there's also an opportunity to provide verbal comments at the board meeting. And wrapping up this section of tonight's meeting, the next slide is our contact information. And just to remind you that we do have an open door policy, especially for those that are most affected by our incentive projects and programs. We encourage you to contact us for setting up a one-on-one meeting with staff to discuss, again, your needs, concerns, potential solutions. And you're welcome to use the link to our online meeting form. We dropped that in earlier. We also have our email address, our main inbox, which is listed at the bottom, Clean Transportation Incentives @arb.ca.gov. And we really appreciate your engagement with us to develop the proposed funding plan. We look forward to collaborating with you this year. If you'd like to stay updated, you can always subscribe to our listserv, and the link for that will also be dropped in the chat. It's been a pleasure to facilitate this portion of the meeting this evening. Thank you. Jessica?
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie, for that presentation. And thank you, everyone who submitted questions, comments, and collaborated with our poll questions. We appreciate your time and your ideas to move forward. Next slide. So as Stephanie described, the evening community meetings are held every Tuesday of the month, excluding the month of November, due to the funding plan being presented to the board. Sometimes we have to shift them around a day or two, but we try our best to keep the consistency and keep them on the third Tuesday of the month. So here you see the upcoming meetings. Today we had our evening community, and the next one will be on May 20th. On June 17th, that's our new evening community meeting date, and that will overlap at the same date that the kickoff workshop is being held. And then the next one to keep in mind for the summer will be July 15th. If you have any topics to recommend or suggest, we always take this feedback in our inbox. If you're interested in registering for these events, staff will drop the link to learn more about our next meetings and for you to be able to register and review our agendas and slides as we post them. Next slide, please. Thank you again all for being here. Please contact us with any questions or concerns. You may also contact us if you have any topic ideas you want to bring up. If something may or may not be working for you and your community regarding air quality or community transportation needs, we are here to listen and will do our best to help. You can reach our team at cleantransportationincentives@arb.ca.gov. And as Stephanie mentioned, to keep your inboxes up to date, please subscribe to the listservs and the link that was dropped earlier. That concludes our evening community meeting for today. Thank you all for taking the time to be here.